you might use a necktie or a strap. So if you have that handy, you might want to grab that. And I can wait a moment if you need to grab something. Right. Okay. So sit up tall. If you're ready to get comfortable, close your eyes. Feel the back of your neck long, especially. So again, following the Rousal Presbyterian Sermon Series on the 10 Commandments, just in general, we've been looking for the grand positives in all the negative commitments. Thou shalt not lie, steal, murder. And so we were on thou shalt not lie. So in the yoga tradition, that is the same as satya or truthfulness. So thou shalt not steal is the same as asteya, which means non-stealing. So the grand positive for me in those is truthfulness also is being authentic, your authentic self. And the non-stealing, Jeff mentioned, is that we are blessed to be a blessing to others. And that's where I think the yoga practice really comes in, because it helps us keep our minds and bodies strong and focused so that we can do the things that we do well as best we can to serve others. So it's not so much about the navel gazing. It's about being your best self for others. So I want to encourage you as your intention today to think of a person or a group of people that you can be a blessing to, uniquely in your own way, and set that as your intention. And God, we just continue to follow your breath for a few more minutes while I tend to the waiting room. So as you sit up tall, perhaps deepening the exhale and noticing how the inhale just happens, maybe a little bit deeper naturally. So if you joined us late, I've invited you for your intention today to focus on a group of people or a person that you can be a blessing to. And then we're going to start to gently move our spine. So we're going to start really slowly. Right? You put your hands on your knees and then just start to make some little circles with your rib cage. Around in one direction. Exhaling backwards, kind of like that little cat shape, and then inhaling forward, a little bit of an arch. And then make it even bigger. Starting to feel all those muscles around the ribs and the hips. Maybe even the head, the neck, and the shoulders. Taking your time. Do a couple more times in this direction. Inhale forward. Exhale back. When you get to the front, change direction. And so start small, right? You might already notice how much warmer your spine feels. So just keep inhaling around and back. Maybe starting to make it bigger, involving the shoulders and the hips and the head and the neck. Couple more times. Good, and then come right back around to the front. And holding your knees, using them for some leverage. I'll turn sideways so you can see me. We're going to inhale, Really lift your chest. Draw your shoulder blades down. And exhale, either come back to neutral, if that's best for you, or curl your pelvis under and make that deeper cat shape, letting your head drop. So remember, you're your own best teacher. Inhaling, gently arch. Shouldn't be any pain. Exhaling, gently hollow out. 2 more times. Inhaling, arch. And exhaling, hollow out. Good. And inhale, come on back to neutral. On an exhale, you're going to twist toward your right. So I'm working on being your mirror, right? Get really, really tall. And exhale, keeping your shoulders level. Twist from the waist up, like a corkscrew. So first, gazing over your back shoulder. Couple of breaths. And then keep your spine from the shoulders down where it is, and just turn your head and look over your front shoulder. And then come on back to neutral. And just gently take your right ear to your right shoulder. And then inhale through center, and take your left ear to your left shoulder. So feel free to do any gentle wiggling around, exploring. Do that a couple more times. Right ear to right shoulder. And left ear to left shoulder. And then we went to the right first, so we're going to drop your right hand to the mat or the chair, and inhale, take the other arm way up overhead. Maybe taking your hand away so you have a little bit of space. Feel like your upper body switch between 2 pieces of glass. Just allow those side ribs to stretch and open up. So easiest thing on your neck is to look down at your hand. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, you could open up your chest toward the ceiling, gaze at your fingers. Nice, and inhale, come on back to center. Let's switch the cross of the feet so we don't get fatigued or cramped. So inhale, get really, really tall. And then exhale, twist to your left. Again, shoulders level, back of the neck long. Good. Then on an inhale, just turn your gaze over your front shoulder. And come on back to center. So go ahead and take your ear to shoulder, side to side a couple of times. I've got somebody in the waiting room. I'm just gonna give them a nudge. Remind me to give a little lecture about showing up a few minutes early. Okay, so we're just gently taking one ear to the shoulder. Right, and then take your left hand out to the side, give it a little space. Inhale, take your other arm up and over, and exhale, folding over. Keeping the shoulders stacked one over the other, so not hunching forward or pulling back too much. You can gaze down at your hand, or you can lift your heart, gaze at your fingertips. So if you joined us a few minutes late, just be mindful of your spine. Careful to kind of catch up. Good, and inhaling, come on back up. We're just gonna make one big circle with the ribs in one direction, and then another big circle with the ribs in the other, and see if you can see what it feels like now, having gotten some motion going. So inhale, arch forward. Exhale, take your ribs to the right and back, and inhale to the left and forward. Again, inhale, get really tall, arching forward, go to the left, pull back, go to the right, and come forward. Nice. And then we're going to just flip yourself so that you can either roll onto your back, or safest way to do it is come to one hip Reach your bottom arm out. So we're not rounding our back. And then roll onto your back. Good. So bend your knees so your feet are flat on the ground, hip width apart. Maybe you can touch your heels with your fingertips. Doesn't matter if you can. Just take a couple of breaths here, feeling the weight of your spine completely supported. The sacrum, even the lumbar spine where there's that little curve. Breathing into the back of the ribs. Let the collarbones be wide. Shoulders gently opening. But the back of the neck stays long. Good, and then on an inhale, take your arms overhead like mummy arms. Then tap the tops of your palms on the ground behind you, and then exhaling, come on back down. And do that 2 more times. Inhaling, arms up overhead. Tap the backs of the palms. And exhale back down. So 1 more time. Inhaling, arms overhead. Tap the back of your palms. And exhale back down. And then draw your knees into your chest, maybe holding your shins or the backs of your thighs. And go ahead and rock from side to side a little bit, just massaging the backs of the shoulders and the ribs. Okay, so wherever you are, keep holding the shins or the thighs and make some big circles with your ankles in one direction. So we had one member of our group broke some toes and is missing us. So give a little love to your toes, scrunch them and stretch them. It's crazy how badly we need those little tiny bones. And then go the other direction. Try and keep the shoulders and the neck soft. Good. And then on inhale, take your heels to the ceiling. So if your hamstrings are tight, keep a little bend in your knees because you want to keep your, like your feet are standing on the ceiling. So if you're having your legs at a diagonal, you're having to use too much muscle energy already. So bend your knees so that you can get your feet like they're standing on the ceiling. So if you have low back pain, you might want to tuck your hands, palms facing down under your hips. That'll help protect the sacrum. So we're going to just slowly and gently exhale one leg down and then the other. Actually, we're going to start on the inhale. So inhaling, take one leg down, let it hover over the mat, only as low as is good for you. And then exhale, pull it in. And then do the other leg, inhaling down. Again, keeping the upper body soft. Exhale, pull it in. We're going to do that 2 more times. Inhaling, leg down. Think about making both legs as long out through the heels as you can. Exhale, up. Inhaling down. And exhaling up. Last one. So using our abdominals, engaging our leg muscles, making ourselves strong. And come on back up. Then bend your knees so that your knees are still over your hips and your shins are parallel to the ground so you feel like a chair on its back. Take your arms out to the side for stability. So explore this slowly and gently. On an inhale, you're going to take your knees to one side, maybe halfway to the floor. Keep the knees squeezing together. So you're working your oblique muscles, those side ribs. And then exhale, pull back to center. Go to the other side. And exhale, pull back. Do that 2 more times each side. Inhaling, taking the knees over. Exhale, pull back. Doesn't matter if you only go a couple of inches, as long as you feel it. Feel those muscles working. 1 more time each side. If you really want to challenge yourself, you can straighten your legs. Pull it in. Last time, inhale. And exhale, pull it in, and again, draw your knees into your chest. Just rock your hips from side to side. And then go ahead and plant your feet again. We're going to do a few bridge poses. This is one of the poses recommended for strong bones. So plant your feet. See if you can feel all 10 toes and both the inner and outer hip. And then inhale, lift your hips up to the sky. And exhale, go ahead and drop them down. Do that 2 more times, inhaling hips up. And exhaling hips down. Last time, inhaling hips up. And exhaling hips down. So this next time we're going to go a little bit deeper. If you want, inhale, take your hips up. If it works for you to interlace your hands underneath you, you could try that. Tuck your shoulder blades a little closer together. Just know you're getting all the benefits wherever you are. Just keep that pelvis raising and the back of the neck long. So you don't have to crunch your chin, just gaze at the ceiling. And then think about engaging your inner thighs a little bit more. I'm big on inner thigh work. One more deep breath. And exhaling, gently release. Now take your feet wide as the edges of the mat and your arms out to the side again. And just windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Maybe one more time each side. Nice. Good. So whatever side you end on, roll onto that side. We're going to push ourselves back up to seated. So the safest way to do that is to use your top hand, stretch the top leg out, and come on back up. So we land on one hip. We're going to do a couple of easy seated twists. So I've got my top foot heel just kind of tucked in the arch of my bottom foot. So if this is, if your hips are tight, this might be hard. You might need to sit up on a block or a blanket. So my spine is perpendicular to the ground, right? I'm just going to twist away from my feet, corkscrewing again around my spine, shoulders level. Gazing over that back shoulder. So think about dropping your tailbone and taking out the curve in the lower back. One more breath. Then inhaling, come back to center. I'm going to take the top leg and cross it over the bottom. If it bothers your bottom knee to be folded in like that, you can stretch your bottom knee out right in front of you. So the goal is to be sitting on both hips now, right? This is another good pose for bone strength. Sit up really, really tall and exhale. Twist toward that front leg. So think like you're trying to stand on that front foot. Right, so we're not just letting that leg hang out, and then think about pulling your inner thigh close to your rib cage as you twist around. So that leg is really engaged, and what it's doing is it's pulling, it's tractioning on the pelvis and the thigh, the femur bone, and of course all the vertebrae that are twisting. If you wanted to go deeper into the pose, you could take that arm up in the air and tuck it outside your thigh for a little more leverage. And gently release. So that top foot now is just going to come into easy seated pose. So if you're sitting in a chair, you could cross this top foot over your other thigh. We're going to do just an easy hip stretch. So with your spine straight, just start to walk your hands forward. And you should feel it in the outside of the hip, of the shin that's in front. So you can stay spine completely long, right? Just turn sideways so you can see me. So I have it rounded. That's a good place to stay. If you want to fold completely over, slowly and gently, you could let your head drop as well. So forward folds are great to do at night before we go to sleep. And on an inhale, use your hands to push yourself back up to center. So this is what worked for, this is what's going to work for me. Hopefully it worked for you too. My leg that's in front now, I'm just going to lay it down, and now I'm sitting on that hip, right? So now I'm getting ready to do that easy seated twist on the other side. Sit up really, really tall. And on an exhale, twist away from your feet. See if you can get all those muscles in the low back and the hips to soften, taking the tailbone toward the ground. It's never too soon to come back to that intention you set. Doing all this so that we can be a blessing to others. If you've already been a blessing to others all day, you're doing this to repair yourself so that you can continue. Right, so I'm just going to take that top foot and cross it over. Stretch that bottom leg out if you need. So sitting on both hips evenly. Feel like you're going to stand up on this top foot, get really, really tall. Pull that inner thigh towards your ribs as you twist. Crown of the head reaching up. Maybe you want to go deeper by taking that top arm and tucking the forearm outside the thigh. And inhaling, come on back around. Just keeping that top leg in front, folding to easy seated pose again. Inhale, get tall. I'll just turn sideways so you can see me again. And exhale, folding forward. Spine straight, or maybe round all the way down. So thinking, just gazing at my wall here with the logo. The whole reason we're here is because an RPC church member asked me to do yoga with them on Zoom back in January. So I had already been doing it for 2 months by the time we got shut down. Seems like a God thing to me. When you're ready, using your hands to gently push yourself up to seated. And we're going to flip ourselves onto all fours. So I've got my hands right under my shoulders now, but I'm going to walk them about 1 hand length forward. Then when I bring my shoulders back over my wrists, I have lengthened myself out into a modified plank position, right? So like plank but on your knees. If you want to come onto your toes, you could. So yoga push-up, taking ourselves down to the mat. Squeeze your elbows in. You're going to try and keep your hips down last. So dropping your chest, chin, and then hips down. Right? Get some stuff out of the way here. So take a moment, just make a pillow for your head with your hands, and rest your forehead on your hands. Just completely relax your body in this nice, easy back bend. So we're going to work a little bit on our posture, upper back muscles. So I want you to squeeze your inner thighs together, point your toes and push them into the mat like you have a giant mermaid tail. And then take your arms out in front of you in the shape of a V. You can just keep your forehead resting on the mat. So this is really going to activate our trapezius, our lower trapezius muscles that help hold our shoulder blades in place. Keeping your head down on an inhale, you're just going to lift your palms up, keeping your arms straight. They might come up 1/8 of an inch. On an exhale, bend your elbows and draw them toward your rib cage. We're going to do that a few more times. So inhale and reach your arms forward. Forehead can stay on the mat. Exhaling, pull your elbows toward your waist. And again, inhaling, V for victory. Exhaling, squeeze those elbows toward your waist. And then make that pillow for your head with your hands again. Nice. our hands under our shoulders and do some little baby cobra poses. So not really using any muscle energy in our arms, just our back. So gaze down at the mat and inhale, lift your shoulders. Just look forward. And exhale, forehead down. You're still pushing your feet into the mat, thighs squeezing together. Inhale, shoulders up. And exhale down. One more time, inhaling, shoulders up. And exhale down. And then bring your elbows under your shoulders. Keep those legs engaged. Inner thighs squeezing, top of the feet pushing. Nice, easy Sphinx pose. My forearms are parallel to one another. On an inhale, maybe you push your elbows into the mat and you lift your ribs a little bit, just gazing forward. So we keep the back of the neck long. Shouldn't be any pain anywhere, right? One more breath. On an exhale, you're going to pull your low belly in. Start to lift your hips up. And walk your elbows back. Till you can come to all fours. Nice. Okay, we're going to come to standing. So if you have a block handy, it's helpful. So safest way to get to standing. Bring one leg forward in line with your block or your chair. The knee stays right over the ankle. Curl those back toes under. Lift the knee and then scoot that back foot to meet the front. So we land with two knees bent. All right, and then inhaling, come on up to standing with a straight spine. Take your arms up over your fingertips. So for a few breaths, just feel yourself rooted. So if you keep your arms in the air, think about squeezing your upper arms toward your ears, drawn back, and lift your toes if you can, or just think about lifting your toes if you can. Spread them wide and put them down. Helps if you spread your fingers wide. So feel your quadriceps really working your thigh muscles, your tailbone dropping down. You are a mountain. If I came and tried to push you over, you wouldn't budge. And then exhale your hands to your heart center. We're going to do just easy little upper body twist. All right, so my sister calls this empty coat sleeves. She's a yoga teacher too. You remember when you would pull your hands into your winter coat when you were a little kid and just let the sleeves swing? A couple times, just from the waist up. Good. And then come on back to stillness. And bring your arms forward. So my palms are facing one another. I'm just going to draw the bow back. Okay, so I'll turn sideways so you can see me. I'm going to open up that right arm. So it's a big, wide, open twist. Keep your feet rooted. Couple of breaths here. Like somebody's pulling on your wrists. And exhaling, gently release your arms down. We'll go to the other side, so bring your fingertips forward. I'll just turn around so I don't have my back to you. And then draw your bow back. Keep your lower body rooted. Inhaling, opening up your arms. You might notice the difference from one side to the other. Couple of breaths. And exhaling, gently release. And come to the front of your mat. So you're going to sweep your fingertips up. Wiggle your toes. Soften your knees a little bit and swan dive forward like you're diving into a pool. So maybe you let your head hang all the way if it's safe. If not, you could stay in a half forward fold. We're going to meet you there in a moment. So on your next inhale, lift your hips. Straighten your legs if you can, reaching the crown of the head out long. And exhaling, softening, fold again. Then we're going to reverse that swan dive, so keep your knees a little bit bent. Puff the chest out like somebody's lifting you up from your elbows. Right back into Tadasana, fingertips up. Mountain pose and exhale your hands to your heart. Nice. Okay, we're going to come to an easy straddle. All right, so ideally, you get your ankles right under your wrists. But if that's too wide, just find a place where you're stable and safe, right? So this is always an opportunity to hold on to the wall or a chair. I'm going to turn my right heel so the toes are pointing the short edge of my mat. Heel to arch alignment, right? So if we drew a chalk line down the middle of your mat, your heel and your arch would intersect. And then on exhale, take that right knee right over the middle toes. You should still be able to see your big toe, like you're taking your knee to the back side of your body. Inhale, take your arms up, palms facing one another. And on exhale, draw your elbows down, goalpost arms. And do that again, inhaling, fingertips up. And exhale, draw your arms down. And then take them straight out to the side. Another great pose for building bone strength in the hips and the femur. Inhaling, go ahead and straighten. Bring your hands to your hip. And bring all 10 toes to the short edge of your mat again. Long edge. And we'll go straight to the other side. So toes out, heel to arch alignment. And then take that knee right over the middle of the foot, big toe. So it's just seeing where you can go. All right, take the arms out to the side. Whole body still facing the long edge of your mat, right? Hips, ribs, shoulders. And then take your palms facing up. Take together. And exhale, draw the elbows down. And palms facing up. And exhale, draw the elbows down. And then take your arms back out to the side again. Nice. And inhaling, go ahead and straighten. Take all 10 toes back to the long edge of your mat and heel toe your way in. That's the safest way. Not wrench your sacrum, your hip joint. Okay, so some one-legged balances, right? I'll start with the right leg first. I'm gonna stand sideways so you can see we're gonna do like a lowercase h. So I'm lifting that knee straight up, letting the heel just hang. Push into your standing foot. Lift up through the hip so that the front of the hip, or front of the thigh is pushing forward. All right. Back of the neck long. So to build bone, it's best to get on one leg. So don't use your other leg for a kickstand. Hold on to a wall or a chair. And exhaling, gently release. And walk it out. Come right back to center and we'll get ready to go to the other side. So inhaling, lifting your other knee. Really coming up out of that hip joint in the standing leg. So use something that's not moving that you can gaze at. I'll help you balance. And then come back to your breath. And exhaling, gently release. Now we're going to alternate sideways. So we're going to do tree pose, same thing, but we're going to turn the knee out. So maybe your foot goes to the calf. Again, better not to do kickstand, better to hold on to the wall or a chair. Maybe your heel comes above the knee, but there's no weight in the knee. Maybe you're feeling kind of bendy, and you can bring that heel up to the inner thigh. You're getting all the benefit wherever you are. Maybe you want to take your arms up, palms facing one another. And when you're ready, exhaling, gently release. Walk it out. And we'll go to the other side, all right? So foot on the calf, or maybe slightly above the knee. Protect that knee joint. And take your fingertips fingertips up if you like. And exhaling, gently release. And go ahead and walk it out again. Okay. So we're going to do one other one-legged balance. I'm going to turn sideways. So you can hold on to the wall. If you don't want to do this standing, you could do tree pose again. It's a little bit of a hip stretch, or you could sit down on the ground or in a chair. So we're going to do that same thing. We're going to lift one knee, then we're going to cross it over the thigh and sit down into your heel. So you're going to start to feel a stretch in that hip. Again, right? You might rest one hand on your knee and one hand on your ankle. So this is pretty challenging. Again, you could do this sitting in a chair or sitting down. One more breath. We'll simply put that top foot down, so we're in a chair pose, right? Sitting into our hips. And inhale, come on back up to Tadasana. So same thing on the other side. I'll come forward this time. So I'm going to lift that knee, cross it over the thigh, and then sit down into the heel. Maybe starting to fold your body forward. So use your eyes, focusing on the ground. It's about 4, 5, 6 feet in front of you. Folding forward, getting that nice opening in the hip. It's great for our core. Balance is a lot about core strength. When you're ready, bringing the foot back into chair pose, sit down in the heels. Right, inhaling, come on back to Tadasana. And exhale your hands to your heart. So we're going to come back down to the mat the same way we came up. All right, so sitting down in your imaginary chair. We're going to take that right leg way back in high lunge. Scoot it back so that your knee stays right over your ankle. Flip the knee down and come to all fours. Go ahead and rock your hips from side to side. So if you're able to do child's pose, you're going to put your big toes together, have your knees be a little bit wider apart. You can bring your block with you and rest your head on your block. You could take your block and tuck it in between your hips and your heels for a little support. If this doesn't work for your body, lay on your back and hug your knees into your chest. So make this a little bit active in the shoulders. So if you're on your back, interlace your fingers and just reach your arms over your head. And then, whether you're on your back or on your knees, you're going to walk your hands over to one side, so it's kind of like standing half moon. We're just folding the ribs and arms to one side, getting a big old side stretch. One more deep breath. On an inhale, walk your hands through center to the other side. So same thing if you're on your back, just take the side stretch on the other side. Settling in. And then inhaling, come on back to center. Lifting up to all fours. So a couple of options. You could do this next thing seated, or you could do it standing on your knees. You're going to grab hold of your tie or your strap. Bath towel, necktie, a couple of socks tied together. Anything that you can hold you know, so that your arms are wider than shoulder width apart, because we're going to take them up overhead when you want to try and keep your elbows straight. And as you exhale, take the strap behind your hips. Right? So inhaling, arms up. Bringing it forward again, trying to keep the elbows straight. So the tailbone's dropping down. Again, you could just do this in an easy seated pose. So if you don't feel a stretch in your shoulders, walk your hands a little bit closer together. Try to keep the tension out of the jaw and the neck. Just inhaling forward and back. One more time, back. Moving with your breath, inhaling up and exhaling forward. Good. Then you're going to take your arms up and you're going to drop your left arm and take your right arm up behind you. I'll turn sideways again so you can see. I'm really working on pulling one arm back with the bottom arm. So not so much about arching the spine, but really about stretching that upper arm, shoulder joint. Nice, and then come on back, both arms overhead, and exhale, go the other way. You might notice a difference in one shoulder. One more breath. Lengthen the spine. Come on back, up and over, and exhale, gently release. So let go of the tie. If you're on your knees, pull your low belly in. Come back to all fours. If you were seated. So we're going to come back down to the mat. Again, safest way to do that is to roll to one side, stretch your arm out, and then roll onto your back. So take a moment here with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor to notice if you feel any different than when we began. And then draw your knees into your chest. Rock from side to side again. And then exhaling, plant one foot back down on the ground and hold the other thigh. You can interlace your fingers behind your thigh. So we're going to work on stretching the belly of the hamstring muscle. So not so much worrying about getting the legs straight, but worry about keeping your ribs really close to your thigh, or your thigh close to your ribs. And on an exhale, just straighten the heel, the leg, as much as you can, reaching that heel. And inhale, gently relax. Keep the back of the neck long, shoulders soft. Exhaling, work on straightening. I mean, it might straighten a quarter of an inch, it's okay. Inhaling and gently release. And exhaling, straightening. Hold for a breath, draw those toes back toward the knee. And gently release and plant that foot. Just notice the difference between one leg and the other. And then draw the other thigh in, holding the back of the thigh, pulling it toward the ribs. So it's really important to keep our hamstrings stretched out. It's especially important for our posture. So on an exhale, work on straightening the back of the leg. And inhale, gently release. Exhaling, straighten. Inhaling, gently release. Check in and see if your knees are still in line with your hips, so we're not letting our legs flop out to the side. One more time, exhaling, straighten. We hold for a breath or two. And then go ahead and plant that foot. Once again, taking your feet wide, arms out to the side, windshield wipering your knees. Walk your feet back in and roll to one side, cradling your head in that bottom arm. Keep your knees bent at like 90 degrees, right? And then I'm going to grab hold, run my hand down the shin, see if you can grab hold of that top foot and bring the knees back in line with the hip. And then you're just going to work on stretching that quadricep muscle. So taking the knee behind you, pushing that hip joint forward. Shouldn't be any pain in the knees, right? You could use your strap if you can't get a hold of your foot. You could grab your pant leg. You could simply bend your knee back. Try and get that front body a little more open. Like posing and counter-posing, stretching the hamstrings, stretching the quad. Good, and exhaling, release the foot, bring the knees back together. We're just make some easy arm circles. So like your hand is on a clock face, the hand on a clock face, just circle, inhaling up and over. And exhaling behind. Really letting that shoulder joint release, inhaling up and over. And exhaling, release. One more time in this direction. When you get down by your hip, reverse. Again, inhaling up over your head. Exhaling back toward the hip. Nice. Right. And pull the low belly in, slowly and gently roll onto your back. Maybe you take a little bridge pose to neutralize your spine, just lifting the hips and then putting them back down. And then you're going to fold to the other side. Now I'm going to turn around so I don't have my back to you. So the knees are still bent. Right. You can lift your knee and see if you can get hold of that shin, ankle, use a strap, hold your pant leg. And start to draw that thigh bone behind you. Again, shouldn't be any pain anywhere. So it took us a long time to get tight. It's a journey. Getting unwound. And if you're not in the habit of doing yoga and stretching and breathing, then your body might not even know what it's missing. Eventually, if you keep on practicing, you will get to the point where your body misses it. And you will know what to do. So exhaling, gently release, just fold that knee on top of the bottom one and do those easy arm circles. Inhaling up and over. Exhaling down. Inhaling up and over. Exhaling down. One more time in this direction. Inhaling up and around. And as you reverse, you come back to that intention you set, that person or group of people whom you can be a blessing, making these last few motions a moving prayer. One more. And exhaling. Gently release and roll back onto your back. So again, drawing your knees into your chest, we're going to finish with happy baby, but if there's some other pose you'd like to do, something in your practice, maybe it's another bridge pose, maybe it's a spinal twist, maybe you have an inversion in your practice, or you want to do another downward facing dog. And I'm going to hold on to the outside of my feet, my elbows are kind of on the inside of my knees, and then bring my shins back parallel to one another, so it's like I'm standing my feet on the ceiling. So I'm reaching the back of the neck long, pushing my sacrum, that hip, big bony hip part, into the mat as if I were going to allow a little matchbox car to go right under my lumbar spine, the low back. So I'm pushing my low back in, but I'm pulling my knees to the mat. You can deepen the pose by extending one leg at a time out to the side. Again, working on that inner thigh and hamstring stretch. It's not too soon to come to Shavasana or corpse pose if you're ready. So if you're still moving, prepare for Shavasana. So maybe if you're concerned about your low back, you keep your knees bent, your feet flat on the ground. Take your feet a little bit wider than hip width apart so your knees can flop inward. So you're not using any muscle energy to hold your legs up. Or maybe you want to stretch your legs straight out. Heels in line with the hips, just let the toes flop open. So wherever you are, if you're on your back, tuck your shoulder blades together. Feel the back of the neck get really long. Do a little body scan. Feel all those places that are in contact with the earth supporting you. Heels, calves, maybe backs to the knees, backs to the thighs, the hips, the rib cage. Just letting the belly rise and fall with the inhale and the exhale. Maybe focusing more on the exhale. Feel the shoulder blades, top of the arm bones, base of the skull. Plenty there to support you. And just follow your breath. Nothing to do until you hear my voice again. So before you begin moving, perhaps taking a couple of breaths, extending the exhale just a bit. The inhale just happens. And the exhale deepens. And then start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe shaking out your wrists or making some circles. So there's no right or wrong way to get moving again. You just want to get the motions a little bit bigger with each inhale. Eventually on an exhale, you want to draw your knees into your chest. If it's okay with your body, roll to one side. If that doesn't feel right, you could come up to seated. So wherever you are, just a couple more breaths. Charles Swindoll said that we are all faced with a series of great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. When you're ready, gently pushing yourself up safely to seated, maybe even keeping your eyes closed. On an inhale, feel your spine really long. Take your arms up over your head, palms facing one another, till they meet. And then exhale, bring your hands back to your heart center. Thumbs right at your sternum, inhale deeply again. Exhaling, bow your head to your own heart, with pat on the back, mental pat on the back for taking care of yourself so that you can be a blessing to others. The Spirit in me honors the Spirit in each of you. Namaste.